One of the many ways that you can stand out in your LinkedIn profile to executive recruiters and hiring managers is to have great recommendations. Today, we're going to talk about what those great recommendations might look like, who should give them to you, how to ask for them, and how you can write great recommendations for others as well. My name is Tom, and I'm the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. You can learn more by checking the link down in the description. But today, we're talking about LinkedIn recommendations. What I want to do is talk to you first about why LinkedIn recommendations are important, and then I want to talk about how to go about getting them on your profile. And I will be candid with you here. You'll see this later on my LinkedIn profile. My last recommendation is dated in 2012. The one before that, 2009. So I haven't used the LinkedIn recommendation engine at all in the last decade. And after having conversations with the executive recruiters in our program here at the Executive Career Accelerator, I realized how much I was leaving on the table by not having a great pile of excellent recommendations from people. It really does matter. And so I'm going to walk through why and how. So let's talk about why LinkedIn recommendations matter. First of all, social proof is one of the big reasons. If you think about it, recommendations are like testimonials for your professional life. They provide us an outside perspective and validate the skills and experience that you claim to have. So in other words, potential employers and recruiters will trust the word of others over self-promotion. And if you think about this, it kind of makes a lot of sense. We can say anything we want to about ourselves, and we might even believe it. But whether or not we do, it may not be true. When others actually talk about you and multiple other people say the same things about you over and over again, it's more and more likely that it's going to be true. Now, it is possible to game recommendations just like gaming everything else. But if you think about it, we still go and look at Amazon customer reviews or Glassdoor reviews of companies, even knowing that inside of those comments, they may be biased either very positively or very negatively. But we still look at that. We still care about social proof. Recommendations are a form of social proof because it's other people saying exactly what they think about who you are. And if they're all saying the same thing or very similar things, that's very likely to actually be who you are. So social proof is important, especially to recruiters and hiring managers. Additionally, credibility and reputation, right? So positive recommendations from respected colleagues will enhance your image. Increase visibility. This is what I did not know. LinkedIn actually improves the visibility of profiles that have a robust recommendation list. So you will show up higher in the search results of an executive recruiter if you have more recommendations. Also, if you have the right keywords in those recommendations, that will also show up in a keyword search that recruiters are doing on LinkedIn. Additionally, insights and perspectives. So well-written recommendations go beyond your resume, providing like a more well-rounded view of who you are. It gives people a sense of a more complete picture of what kind of professional you are and whether you're somebody that actually fits the culture of the organization. And finally, it helps with your relationships, where the people you're asking for recommendations, you'll actually build a closer relationship to that person and strengthen that connection in your network. By the way, if you help them with a recommendation, that's also going to help increase that relationship as well. A couple things to understand about recommendations. It is more important to have a few great recommendations than many good recommendations. So I would bias for quality over quantity when you're looking at getting recommendations. So go to people that you think would write, very thoughtful recommendations for you, as opposed to just spamming 100 requests to people with like low effort. Also target your recommendations. Specifically ask for recommendations from people who saw you in your best moments or worked on skills that you're trying to promote moving forward in your career. So if you worked at a bike shop and you're in cybersecurity, you want to make sure that you're getting recommendations for the cyber work that you do, not the great work you did running a bike shop, as an example. So I wanted to get the perspective of a few executive recruiters, and we have 2 executive recruiters inside the program. Let's see what they have to say about recommendations on LinkedIn. So the first perspective comes from one of our recruiters, Sandra. And Sandra says, taking everything into account, we look for clues beyond skills, experience, and certifications. Clues about what you're actually like to work with. What do people say about you beyond just the tactical? Things like collaboration, integrity, communication skills, What's it like to have you on the team? And was that a good experience? I often get my questions answered when looking at any recommendations I read and call out the great and unique comments to hiring managers and stakeholders. In their eyes, it can convert a two-dimensional candidate into a three-dimensional candidate. So what Sandra is saying is that she will take the recommendations that she finds on people's profiles and actually print those out and highlight them for hiring managers so that that hiring manager can see a more well-rounded perspective of this individual beyond just what's in the career profile or the certs section of their resume. Our next executive recruiter in the program also had a really great perspective. She says, you don't buy anything without checking Amazon reviews. It used to be that everyone would go to TripAdvisor or you would Google solutions for your problems or self-diagnosed medical problems. Recruiters use LinkedIn, and that alone is why you should have recommendations. Recruiters use LinkedIn, and this is really important. Whether you love or hate the platform, it is the platform that recruiters use to find executive talent. And if you have a great profile with many excellent recommendations, you're going to stand out in the eyes of those recruiters. Those recommendations are third-party validation and social proof that you are who you say you are on your profile. So how do you actually ask for recommendations? Let's talk about that. So there's a couple things here. First of all, you want to make sure you choose the right person. So make sure that you are talking to someone that you've worked with. Primarily, I've found the best recommendations come from people that have worked for me or I have worked directly for, or who was a peer. In some cases, you can also get really good recommendations from customers or vendors if you're more on the supply chain side of things. But getting people that have interacted with you in a positive way for preferably a long period of time is going to help your recommendation case. You want to make sure that the person you're asking for a recommendation can actually speak to the skills that you want to highlight on your resume. So if you are focusing on moving up into a strategic role, you want to make sure that the person who's recommending you can talk about your strategic mindset or your strategic communication abilities. So let's talk about the ideal way to actually ask someone. So personalize it. Don't just use a generic template. I prefer to send an email or a text or a phone call. And if you can ask in person, do that. The idea is that you want to ask in as authentic a way as possible. Don't leave it to chance that they think this is just a spam to hundreds of people. You want to make sure that they understand that you are specifically asking them for help. And you can also offer a recommendation for them in return. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the ideal ask, you basically want to personalize it. You also want to be specific, and you may want to include one or two things that you want them to recommend about you. This is not self-serving. This is actually helpful to the person you're asking for a recommendation. They may not know what to recommend. They may not, have in their mind an idea of exactly what to say about you. So you actually sharing with them what you want them to say will actually help them in many ways. You want to make it easy for them by providing information about what it is that you're looking for in the recommendation. You want to show gratitude. You obviously want to say thank you, and you can do that in several ways, not the least of which is to write a recommendation in return for them. And finally, that's the reciprocation point, where you can do what I call one give, one ask. In one give, one ask, you give a recommendation and you ask for a recommendation. And that's very fair. When we're trading in recommendations, we're not trading in compliments. We're trading in fair and accurate and honest representations of who we were when we worked together. So it's not that you're fishing for compliments. You're building your social proof case for recruiters to understand who you are. The channel through which you ask is really LinkedIn has a built-in request a recommendation feature, and I'll show you that in a moment. I really prefer email or in person if possible. If you can reach out to someone in person or via email with a personalized message and something really polite and kind, that's going to go further than just reaching out on LinkedIn. Also remember this, that you can follow up with people after about a week and then maybe follow up a total of 2 times. If after 2 follow-ups they haven't replied, they're probably not going to write you a recommendation. Or you might want to check their email address. And then finally, you can send a thank you note. This is one of the times where if someone writes a really great recommendation for you, a handwritten thank you note may be appropriate, but at least a kind thank you note, either online or through email, would be appropriate too. So here are some sample outreach messages, and I'm going to share this file in the notes down below of this video, but just a couple ways to actually craft your message. For example, focus on working together. Hey, quick favor if you have a moment is the subject of the email. Hi, such and such. I hope all is well. Really enjoyed our work together on this project. I'm updating my LinkedIn profile and was wondering if you'd be willing to share a short recommendation highlighting our collaboration and my skills in these specific skills. Let me know if that works and I'm happy to return the favor. Cheers, my name. So very simple, easy, light ask. Can be very polite. And there's other ways to do this. You can emphasize growth. You can be more direct about things. So different ways to ask, and you can work with AI to kind of create your perfect ask, whatever makes the most sense for you and for the person you're asking. So be willing to work with GPT to draft a message as well. And then finally, some specific tips when it comes to asking for the recommendation. Personalize it, be specific about what you're looking for, and make it easy. You can offer to write a draft recommendation for them if they would prefer to do that. Okay, so with that, I thought I would go ahead and be transparent here and show you my recommendations section, because in retrospect, as I was preparing for this video, it didn't occur to me that my last recommendation was written in 2012 and the one before that was 2009. But that gives me to take my own medicine here. I'm going to have to go and get LinkedIn recommendations. So let's go and take a look at our LinkedIn profile here. So this is my LinkedIn profile. This is what I see on my side of the LinkedIn profile. And if you go all the way down here past about, experience, education, licenses, volunteering, skills, recommendations is down here at the bottom. It is down at the bottom of the profile, but recruiters know to look for this. That's why it's important. So if you take a look at this, my last recommendation was in 2012, which is a little embarrassing. And I only have 16 recommendations total in my entire history. And they're all really from like the late 2000s. So I have some work to do on this. I've also given several recommendations, and you can see those here in your list of recommendations. When you actually want to ask for a recommendation from someone, you can do that by clicking the plus button and then click ask for a recommendation. So now what you can do is you can actually ask a person that you are connected to on LinkedIn. So for example, I'm going to ask my good friend Nelson, and he is right here, and our relationship. So Nelson and I worked together in the same group, and it was when I was the CEO of Vertical Motion. So here, LinkedIn gives you a very simple, hey Nelson, would you write me a recommendation, please? Well, what I've done is I've crafted an email that I would send to him already. And so what that looks like is, hey, I hope all is well. I really enjoyed our work together on the Executive Career Accelerator program. I'm updating my LinkedIn profile and was wondering if you'd be willing to write a short recommendation highlighting our collaboration and my skills in executive career coaching and leadership training. Let me know if that works, and I'm happy to return the favor. Cheers, Tom. This is my communication style. This is how I communicate with people via text. So this is very comfortable for me to write something like this. And then you just simply send that. And that will send Nelson a request to actually create a recommendation for me. The recommendations show up in pending, and you can see recommendations that others have written for you. And you can choose which recommendations you actually want to display on your profile by choosing the on and off buttons here. So it's a pretty easy to use system on LinkedIn, and knowing that this will really help your chances of getting an executive recruiter to reach out to you, it seems like this is worth the lift. So that's the how and why for LinkedIn recommendations. Why we do them, because it actually improves our chances of being seen and understood by recruiters and hiring managers. But more importantly, it provides the social proof beyond just our own perspective of who we are. It's other people saying, yeah, this person is a good hire as well. And the how of doing is pretty simple. You just can email people and ask for recommendations. When someone asks me for recommendations, I typically draft it to them in an email and let them kind of wordsmith it a little bit before I will actually submit it through the LinkedIn engine. But either way, how you do this, the most important thing is that you actually do get this done. So go out there, get some recommendations, put in your LinkedIn profile, take some action on that today, and I will see you in the next video.